Welcome to Talent Instinct, an electrifying space where we dive into how construction business owners revamp their hunt for top-tier talent by instinctivizing their efforts. It's time to spice up relying on systems and processes and discover prime insights on how to smartly apply their most important aspect, their instinct, as well as intellect, to pinpoint individuals who don't just fit in, but flourish. Let's face it, making the right hire for your business has never been more paramount. The stakes of the wrong hire can disrupt performance, profit, culture, and succession planning. Talent Instinct isn't about playing it safe. It's about conquering with calculated instinct. Hello everyone, I'm glad to have you all back. Today I'm going to talk about a bit about my background actually. I thought it's a bit about time I talk about myself and where I get all my experience from on how to choose people and why I have the secret sauce, let's say. So 21 years of sales experience, selling many different things. People joke that I could sell ice to Eskimos at this point, but also just being an absolute champ myself at doing interviews. Being able to sell myself into a role and knowing what to ask and, reading the room, all of those things. And, you'd hope so, because if I can't sell myself, that would be a sad day and I should probably give up my day job. So let's go back. Let's go back to the start. 20 years ago, I, started off in real estate, selling residential properties in Sydney in the inner west. And I was taught to close, as they say. And it was very much about, it's so competitive. I worked in such a competitive area. I worked for an Italian fellow that was really old school and, really showed me the ways. Now, just my brain work, how it works is that I'm always looking for an easier way or better way to do things. I hated doing the mail drops and the, cold calling and all of that sort of stuff. So I knew rain, hail or shine on a Saturday at those open houses, I was going to sell the absolute crap out of that house. I was going to put on a show. I was going to do a great open house because I knew the neighbours were coming and I knew that there were my next potential clients coming to see what I was like. So, this is going to make me sound old. Back in my day, we very much had to, listen to what the person was looking for that wanted to buy the house. You had to, sell them the dream, make them see how they could potentially live in this house, how it was going to work. That's how you did it. And then, of course, we know with real estate sales, you have to, do the listing presentation and everyone wants to negotiate on everything. So there come my negotiation skills. And, you don't leave. Like, it's so competitive. You do not leave until you know that you have like a yes. Mentally, those people before I left had already said yes to me, like selling their house. It's the biggest, it's such an emotional sale for someone to do. So that was always a big thing as well. But it got me always thinking about people like, mentally already saying yes to me. And how do you go about doing that? So already when I talk to people, I'm already asking them questions that I essentially know the answer to. Or it's, they're telling me what they're looking for and I'm able to tell them back exactly how I can offer that to them. So then I'm always asking them like closing sort of things. Does that sound good? Does that sound like what you're looking for? there's just a real sales like component to what I do. And that's, selling the job to the candidate, as selling my service to, a client. And I always say that recruitment is like the hardest sales you'll ever do, because you don't have like a product, like a fixed product. You don't have anything, you've got a candidate that, has a piece of paper, and we all know sometimes what that piece of paper's worth, but it's personality that's going to sort of do the trick. But I'm selling a service. I'm selling a service to people, saying, I can find you the people that you're looking for, and I have good people. There is nothing to back that up until someone actually, decides to use me. And then, even then, sometimes, not all the time, but not most times, thank God, most of the times, I have a fantastic hit rate of, good candidates and people turning up, and everyone, moving along and being happy. And people ask me even that, how do I do it? Like, how do I quantify someone to be the right, personality? Again, and it's going back to having these conversations with people, and, my background of 20 years. So moving on from, being a real estate salesperson, which we call a B2C salesperson, I moved to do B2B sales, which is business to business. And I was told by a recruiter, FYI, that I'd never be able to do it. And to be honest with you, I went and did it, and I did it really well, like exceptionally well. I was, became at that particular time, I think like I was second or third best salesperson, ended up, and it was all different clients. I dealt with, a lot of it was like pharmaceuticals, they were totally different sort of array of clients, which again, you've got to change and adapt to suit the person that, you're presenting to, and, feel out what that is. So years and years of different kinds of sales. I've been to many different, sales courses and things like that, learning about the different personality types, learning about your open-ended questions and closed questions. And just generally, I've got to say, like, I've lived life. A lot of what, my experience comes from is, growing up in Sydney and just being around so many different personalities, and me just being so adaptable. I mean, just really taking in, like, it's just always been a curiosity of mine. My dad actually said something to me while I was growing up. He was like, you always want to know what's going on around you. Like, if you can feel danger, or you can feel that someone's going to get into a fight, you want to know, like, take in your surroundings and know what people are about and what they're doing. So for me, it's just always been something that I've very much, taken notice of people's body language, what they're saying, are they talking, like, are they actually saying what they mean and mean what they're saying, sort of thing. It's all of that sort of stuff that, a combination of just going out and living in, a bit of a party scene as well. My parents lived in very different areas growing up. So, my mum was on the North Shore and my dad was out sort of west, very different cultures. And, just getting to see all that different life, and then the sales sort of training that I've had coupled with that as well, means that I am very good at getting an idea of someone's personality and who they are, like tone of voice, body language. All of those things are where we say, the instinct is coming from. And that's why I like to have a talk to people and find out a lot more about them. I don't hold interviews, and it's not, I'm going to read off a piece of paper and see what their qualifications. I can read. Like, I can see what it is. So, of course, I'm going to ask them and go, okay, you've done this. What did you do here? Like, get into what their experience is. But even in that, like, I make jokes. I want to talk to someone and find out, do you have a sense of humor? Like, are you organized? You know, like, how do you feel? Are you on time to work all the time? You know, are you a bit more of an aloof person? Can you take direction? All of those sorts of things I'm going to find out from asking them more questions and indirect questions. So really, like, with all my experience and doing so much sales and having such a fascination with people's personalities has really put me in good stead for the job I do. But let's fast forward a bit. So I sold pull-up banners and portable display units in Sydney. I went from real estate to doing that. And, you know, again, had such a diversity of different clients and things like that. So I got to hone my skills really well on, you know, what different people look for, what different personality types were. And then I moved up to Queensland and, you know, actually I had a little stint being a project coordinator for a retail fit out company, which was great because it gave me, you know, some other sort of building and operational side experience. But then I got into recruitment and I was told, like, don't have an opinion for 6 months. Watch. Just take it in. Learn how to do recruitment. And I was like, okay, and by this stage, I'm, you know, 30s. I thought, okay, who are you? What do I need to, like, learn? I've got sales experience here. I'm not an idiot, but I did take the advice. And, you know, I will say that I worked with another girl. She's a bit younger than me, but man, she was good at her job. And she taught me, like, a lot of the tricks of the trade. She taught me a lot of the things to look out for to know whether someone was going to fit the job or not, or, you know, sort of the ins and outs to look out for. And that's how I learned. That's how I learned to take care or note of those personality things, what worked in construction and what doesn't. And, you know, across the board, I have to say, like, you know, after that company, I went to another company and, you know, I started up the trades and labour desk. And, you know, back then, God, that was, I don't even know, I want to say 6 years ago. And I was the only one doing it in Queensland, and they needed someone to head up the mining side in Queensland. So we already had the clients. I'm not going to take responsibility for that, but I did place all the candidates and found, you know, everything. So I used to find anything from bus drivers to personal trainers to you name it. They would ask me for anything and everything and give me a 24-hour turnaround, and I'd have to have them on a flight to whatever camp it was. And, you know, maybe just recruiters' luck at that point. I don't know what it was, but I managed to do it and they absolutely loved me. But point being, again, you know, you can give me anything and tell me what you're looking for, and I can go and find what's going to match on paper. No problem. That's easy. I go, okay, yep, cool, that's a match. What do I look for now in the personality? And, you know, everyone has a bit of a different culture. And the more I get to know the business and the culture and what you're looking for, then the more that I can match that. But that's also coupled with, again, 20 years experience of doing sales and, you know, and a life. I have to give credit to, you know, my life as well and, you know, my other life experiences. I think that there's a bit of an understatement, though, to how much training I've probably had and how much sales experience I've had to be able to, again, read those, you know, underlying personality traits, or to be able to talk to people. Probably one of my gifts, and, you know, maybe call it the gift of the gab or whatever, but one of my gifts is I talk. And sometimes people tell me I talk too much, but me talking and making people feel comfortable makes them so comfortable that they tell me the good, the bad, the ugly. And then that means that I get to see exactly what I'm walking into. And, there's just certain questions and that people can't hide from. And, if you have a person that is great at just giving you all the right answers that you're looking for, they're highly trained for interviews, then you need to catch them off guard. You need to ask them other questions. So how do you do that? You've got to make sure that you get to know them as a person, make sure that, they've got a good sort of family life going on. What are their interests? I don't really care if they have their interests on a piece of paper. That doesn't mean anything. Like, everybody has that they go camping, for example, or they love fishing. It's all the same. Everyone's resume in that regard reads the same. I really want to look for people that are going to have a good sense of humor, like to, have a go-getter attitude. And a client said it to me today. One of my candidates, because of his go-getter attitude and the fact that he doesn't have to babysit him and tell him what to do every second of the day, even though he doesn't have exactly the qualifications or the experience, overrules everything else because he can already see that he can teach him. So I think that's going to be on the next episode, is going through, which one's probably better, the overqualified or the person with the great attitude, and what the differences are. But thanks, guys. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening to Talent Instinct. I'm Chantal Penny, and if you want more razor sharp insider info on instinctivizing your hiring game, then hit the subscribe button. Oh, and remember to drop a killer rating and review. Please don't hold back. Spread the news to fellow construction business owners too. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and soak up all of my content, please do so by stalking us on Talent Instinct and my brainchild Siteforce Recruitment on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.